Time usually marches in a straight, obedient line, 1 second neatly following the next. But every so often, a fracture appears, a seam, a door hiding inside an ordinary moment. Step through, and memory echoes forward, greeting moments that haven't yet arrived. The future loops back to meet you, and the familiar becomes just slightly, unmistakably wrong. Welcome, traveler, to the door between 2 seconds. Step carefully. The moment you entered is already behind you. Episode 8. The Shadows They Kept. They learned early that their shadows did not behave. At first it was easy to excuse. A half-second lag when they crossed a street at dusk. A softness at the edges like charcoal smudged by a distracted hand. They joked about it because they were happy people, and happy people make jokes before they make conclusions. They had names for everything else. They named their mornings. They named the way silence settled between them when it was welcome. They even named the way they stood, slightly too close to each other in public, daring the world to notice, and then pretending it hadn't. They did not name the shadows. The first time one of them truly noticed was on a Sunday afternoon that felt borrowed. Windows open, music drifting without intention. They were dancing in the kitchen, not really dancing, just moving together because movement felt easier than stillness. She saw it on the wall. Her shadow was smiling. She wasn't. She froze. The music went on. He didn't notice at first. He was watching her face the way he always did, as if it contained instructions he hadn't learned to read out loud. "Do you see that?" she asked. "See what?" She pointed. The shadow adjusted itself immediately, mouth flattened, posture corrected. It became obedient again, as if it had only been stretching. If you blinked, you would miss it. That night, when the room was dark but familiar, she watched the shadows stretch across the ceiling. They moved more slowly than usual, as if tired. She wondered, briefly, without panic, whether shadows ever slept. He dreamed differently. He dreamed of arriving places after something important had already happened. Train platforms with no schedules. Empty theaters with the echo of applause still hanging in the air. He never felt afraid in these dreams, only late. In every one of them, his shadow stood slightly ahead of him, waiting. They remained joyful people. That mattered. They laughed easily. They argued badly and forgave quickly. They had rituals, coffee shared without discussion, showers shared without urgency, glances exchanged that carried entire conversations and relieved them of speech. Their love was not fragile, which is why it survived the next part. The shadows began to disagree. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't constant. It happened the way realization happens, quietly, and then all at once. They were walking home together beneath streetlights that broke the dark into tolerable pieces. Their shadows stretched long across the pavement, overlapping, merging, doing what shadows had always done when two people stood close. Except this time they did not merge cleanly. Her shadow leaned toward him. His shadow did not. They stopped walking at the same time. "You feel that?" he asked. She nodded. The shadows corrected themselves, snapping back into alignment like children caught misbehaving. A car passed. The moment shrank under the weight of ordinary motion, but something had been introduced. From then on, patterns emerged. In crowds, everything behaved. In bright light, in motion, in laughter, nothing strange happened. The shadows only misbehaved when there was time enough to notice them. At thresholds, at corners, in pauses. She began to sense things in hers, not images, not visions, but tendencies. A patience she didn't recognize, a stillness that suggested waiting without anxiety. Once, brushing her teeth, she watched her shadow lift a hand she had not yet moved. She dropped the toothbrush. The hand fell back into place. He noticed something else. His shadow repeated things. At first he thought it was reflection lag, but one evening in the hallway mirror, he stepped forward. The shadow stepped forward. He stepped back. The shadow didn't. It stayed where it was, facing him, not threatening, not urgent, just present. When he blinked, it returned to obedience. He did not tell her. They told themselves stories instead. They told themselves it was stress, or deep intimacy bending perception, or two lives overlapping so completely that even their silhouettes were confused. But the shadows were not confused. They were early. The breaking point came during a power outage. The city went dark all at once. No warning, no gradual dimming, just absence. They lit candles. They laughed. They sat on the floor, backs against the couch, warmth shared. Their shadows rose enormous against the walls. That was when the pretense ended. Her shadow stood. She did not. His shadow sat. He did not. They stared. Neither shadow corrected itself. The candle flame wavered, but the shadows held steady, independent, composed. "I think," she said slowly, "mine is already there." "I think," he replied, "mine stayed behind." Between them their shadows touched, not overlapping, touching. When the lights returned, the shadows snapped back into place. They did not sleep that night. By morning they understood something without agreeing on it. Whatever was happening was not trying to hurt them. It was trying to finish something. One evening, standing in the hallway, she said, "I think mine has already learned how this ends." He nodded. "I think mine hasn't decided yet." They did not ask which one was right. They asked the only question that mattered: which one are we? The shadows did not answer. On the last night, they lit candles again. The shadows rose behind them, aligned, quiet, watching. She felt calm. He felt grief. They held hands. Morning came. When sunlight cut across the wall just right, there was only one shadow. It stood still, not following, not waiting, complete enough to remain. Every door casts a shadow. Most people spend their lives mistaking one for the other.